This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Teachers Podcast. With me today is Karina from One Guided Spirit. Karina has been on one of our first episodes. So this is a follow-up, episode 2 with Karina. We had so much to talk about, and in the first episode, we covered Karina's awakening journey, how when she was 10 years old, everything started to open up for her in her gifts and with her medicine journey. And then when she was in her 20s, things really started to ramp up. And Karina found her teachers. She started finding and attracting all types of different medicine people to guide her and teach her in all the ways that she facilitates today. So it's such an honor to have you on, Karina. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Traso Kamati.
Beautiful. And can you share what that means?
So it's almost like thank you for having me here. It's a Nahuatl word. Yeah, from the Mexica. So it's thank you for having me.
Beautiful. Yes, Karina is a practitioner in Mexica curanderismo, which is another way of saying medicine woman from Mexico and that region of the world. So today we'll be covering different plant medicines. So we'll be talking about Kambo, we'll be talking about Hape, we'll be talking about Niño Santos or psilocybin mushrooms. We'll also be talking about sacred ceremonial cacao, how the importance of holding sacred ceremony and how to do that. And we'll probably touch on some energetic protection tools and techniques as well. So it's going to be a potent episode. So thank you all for joining us. And I think what's most present right now, Karina, is the medicine of Kambo, which I sat with 6 days ago, actually. So if you look at my arm, for those watching on YouTube and Rumble, I have these 3 spots here on my arm, and those spots are part of the ceremony. So would you be open to sharing a little bit about Kambo, what it is, how it works, those kind of things?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for obviously sitting with the medicine. I know that you must be integrating really beautifully. Thank you for having me again. So it's the bicolor Philomedusa frog from the Amazon. It's a very beautiful medicine that they work with in different parts of the world, especially in the jungles. A lot of the teachers they either come from Peru, Brazil, and now it has turned into, it's kind of integrated itself and migrated into Mexico. So now that, we're in the Western society, we are now learning more and more about this beautiful medicine. And it's the beautiful secretion from the actual frog. So for us, in the jungle, the frog actually secretes from its back, and it's actually a protection to poison other prey, like actually looking at it as prey. Mm-hmm. So it secretes this beautiful secretion from the back to protect itself from being prey from other animals in the jungle. Mm-hmm. But for us, we've been able to heal with it in different forms and different ways. And it's such a powerful medicine that we've been able to, we're still learning so much from this medicine that, I have multiple teachers who are still continuously teaching me more information. And I love that because it tends to connect you depending on which teacher you're working with. You're learning something new. So it's always a great recommendation that if someone is feeling the call to study this medicine, not only sit with the medicine, it's a good way for you to seek out or call in multiple teachers, not just one. As myself, I've had about 3 different teachers. Mm-hmm. One had taught me how to serve myself, which she was actually one of the most deepest and profound teachers that I have found, because of the fact that she had me go through the trenches of myself. And I actually suffered from a lot of anxiety at one time. And sitting with her, she taught me how to like dig deep while I am in the medicine. And as we're feeling the medicine, it begins to go into like those deep, dark, shadowy parts of ourselves or our inner self to heal a lot of our trauma systems. And then from her, it's more like the emotional body, you know, our inner self, what's the blockages, the bad habits, the patterns, and things like that. Then another one of my teachers taught me the body. So it was actually a couple, and they taught us the meridian systems and how to connect with the meridian system, so that when someone is coming into our space for us to serve the medicine, we know what to look for. So if they're going through something specific, we go into that specific meridian system to connect to that energy stream, which is the chakra system, which is really powerful. Then I have my last teacher. My last teacher was more of, he was more, I don't want to say ruthless, but he was more forward. He was like, we're not babying you. This is what it is. You're going to go jump in the river and it's super cold afterwards. And, you know, we didn't work with the dragon's blood. We didn't work with any of that. He was just like, we're going to serve you. That's what it is. You're receiving the medicine and it's survival from there, you know, and it's a beautiful way, because each one of these teachers has taught, at least in my own walk, that we are the ones who are going to save ourselves. Yes, the medicines are there for us, but ultimately it's our engagement, our intention, and our relationship that we build with these medicines. So
Absolutely.
I did bring a few. Actually, I brought my whole mesa, which is my whole kit for Kambo. So I wanted to share the stick that, if you can see, I'm not sure, but there's
you
a
can see
little
it.
bit of the secretion here. The shiny part is the actual venom.
Okay.
And what they do is they ethically, you know, at night, I didn't bring Sananga, which was actually one of the main components that they work with to actually harvest this medicine in the jungles. But ultimately at night, the men go out hunting for this beautiful frog. And what they do is, once they capture the frog, obviously they're very ethical, they're very respectful to the medicine. So what they do is they kind of spread the legs, and when it begins to secrete the venom on its back, they scrape it really gently, and they begin to collect it onto this, you know, this wooden stick. And so that's how they're able to travel with the medicine to be able to serve it. In the jungles, you know, they have the frogs just hanging out. So they're able to just capture the frog and take the secretion, and that's how they work with it. And obviously we're in a Western society, so we are, you know, I always tend to say we get babied here. In the jungle, you know, when you're going into this beautiful initiation process of being able to serve in the future, they serve you anywhere between maybe 100 points in your body.
At one
So a
time?
lot of the men, yes, they do.
Wow.
And so there's these videos that you can catch on Instagram or on YouTube where a beautiful initiation process is, they have it all over their arms, all over their chest, down to their legs, and they just let them let them sit with it until they're getting well, and they're getting well. And you know, they've never had an experience that was fatal, obviously, because this is medicine to our body. But ultimately, that's the true initiation, is you being able to withhold the medicine in that one moment, you know?
So just to compare, normally when you have your first dose is 3 points usually you start out with, right?
Yeah. Traditionally, so as time has evolved, I notice the difference between the people who do come sit with me. Most people that do come sit with me, I tend to walk super slow. I remember when you and I sat together, I normally don't serve someone that many, points unless they've sat with the medicine or there is a deep intention for it.
Mm-hmm.
Or what I will do is I will serve them only 1 point.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that my intention and the reason why I choose to walk this way, everyone, depending on who you speak with, everyone walks differently. But I tend to walk slow because I want you to come back to the medicine. I don't want to re-traumatize you and have you run away from the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So my intention for the women, traditionally, I've always served women on the ankles and men on the arms. Mind you, I have other teachers who are like, no, it's the other way around. So it's depending on who you speak with. But the medicine, I listen to the medicine in my own, with the relationship I've built with it to serve in that way. And I feel a lot more safer that I actually get more people to return than to not want to do it again.
Yeah, you have a
So
very gentle approach. I've sat with 5 different facilitators, and you've been the most gentle and the most nurturing, the most caring, and very, very present and very attuned to what's happening. So that is, I'm sure, why people continue to come back, And so for those people that don't know, a point is a burn, right? That is basically taking off the top layer of the epidermis to expose the dermis. And can you share a little bit about what tool is used to burn that top skin off?
So traditionally they work with this beautiful bamboo stick, which, it's a lot larger. I've actually worn it out, but this technically is the traditional way. In the Amazon, what they do is they actually get a leaf. They actually grab the medicine and they just place it on there.
Oh, wow.
But it's evolved, so they've taught us to work with the stick to assist in making the point as round as possible and just to be able to just make it a small little, just a tab.
So
And then
traditionally with a leaf, are they burning the leaf, or how do they do that?
No, what they do is they actually, mind you, in the Amazon, they're very clean. So, and they're very like raw and straight to the point. So what they would do is they would utilize your own saliva and they would spit on the medicine to make it moist, to kind of make it into this liquid. And what it does is then they get what they would do is they will make the point, they will burn it immediately. They will make the point and then they would scrape it with, I don't know if it's the leaf that they scrape it with, but they tend to just scratch it off with their own finger.
Okay.
And then they put saliva on the stick. They grab the medicine with the actual leaf and they just kind of rub it on there.
Okay.
So it's kind of, they still work with the stick, but most of the time, they just need to make the abrasion to be able to get to the epidermis. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's really what we do. Now we have evolved in studying this medicine and in different ways to be a little bit more gentler. Again, we are in Western society and we tend to have different forms of reactions. So what I have noticed in the difference of working with the traditional stick is it kind of leaves you a scar that lasts a little bit longer and it actually burns deeper,
Yeah.
So one of my teachers has gotten us to start working with an incense stick. So the incense stick tends to actually make it such like it's gentler. It's a lot more many times when we work with that stick, at least when I've worked with it, to serve myself, or I've had someone else serve me, I'm like, oh, like I really jump,
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed that with the incense stick, a lot of practitioners aren't aware of this, and it's still sanitary. It still gets the job done,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a lot gentler on the skin. And I've noticed that it doesn't go as deep
Right.
as what we would do, normally with the stick. The stick, you have like a matter of seconds to make sure that you actually get in there. And if you're serving like 5 or 6 points, the stick, you're gonna have to keep burning the stick.
Right.
So with this guy, you just turn it on once, it turns red, and you're at it,
Mm-hmm.
for as many times as you would like. But
Mm-hmm.
I tend to find it to be a smoother burn. It doesn't hurt as much, and it tends to still do the work. And in all reality, when it lasts longer. So we break up the sticks and we have many more to go. And it's very sanitary, because if there is someone who is coming with specific ailments, then we don't have to work with the same stick and throw away that one stick we have.
Right.
Because we won't be able to work with this one stick if someone comes in and has a serious ailment that they're trying to work on,
Yeah.
And with the versus the incense stick, you either break it off or you just get another piece, which is really, it helps a lot,
Yeah, that's amazing. So for those that aren't familiar with Kambo, the first before you even do the burns and you set your intentions, people will drink 3 liters of water, right? Traditionally,
About a liter and a half.
liter and a half. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's about
I've sat with people that have said a liter and a half to 3 liters, somewhere in that range. And so what was different for me on Saturday was I sat and drank yucca, which is a type of succulent, right? Like almost like an aloe plant that grows in the desert, and
Mm-hmm.
yucca is what they make tequila from, right?
Yucca is, from my comprehension, it's more of a, I think you're able to, but that's more of an agave plant.
Oh, agave. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They're
Mhm.
very similar. They look similar, right?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Uh, I think, for the yucca, they also add, I think it's banana, but I'm not sure. I
Hmm.
think it's almost, yeah, it's actually a lot smoother on the system for sure, for your intestines, versus just drinking water. I think there's one misconception of, when we're preparing, we go through a fasting point, to prepare leading up to the sit. And a lot of people don't really realize that a lot of the waters, people have this misconception that in every sit you're going to get well, which is purge,
Hmm.
through the mouth orally. And ultimately, no, there's, your body is trying to let you know what you're healing, what you're processing. And water's it's a really big deal here, because when you're leading up to this, you need to be well hydrated.
Hmm.
um, I think a lot of people, they do drink like healthy water, like the Kangen water, and they drink all these reverse osmosis water, and they drink what is it, uh, the one that has minerals in it, like it's
Al
they
alkaline? No, spring
like
water.
alkaline. No, there's another one. It's one that's really popular that people tend to assume that they hydrate with this, and they really
Oh, okay.
purified water.
Hmm.
And I always tell people the best water that can hydrate you, especially leading up to Kambo, is actually spring water.
Hmm.
Spring water is going to hydrate you. And I serve, when you're about to sit and you're going to go through the process of drinking the liquid, it's spring water that you should be drinking. If you drink alkaline, if you drink Kangen, you're not gonna get well. You're just
Hmm.
gonna have a really intense process where you're going to probably feel nauseous, but nothing happens,
Mm.
and ultimately when we sit with these medicines, especially with Kambo, the idea is to release. It's for you to connect to that intentional thought of what are you coming here to let go of, So when we work with this specific water, and even when they work with yucca, it actually helps the digestive system, versus when you're when you're gonna get well and you're purging, your stomach lining constricts and it tightens up. And the idea is you want it to allow the flow to come out. You want it to heal the body versus constrict and hurt the body.
Absolutely.
So I think it is a game changer. You even experienced this in your sit recently,
Yeah,
right?
yucca was a game changer for me because the last 5 times I sat with Kambo over the years, I had a sore diaphragm afterwards because when I purge, I've gotten well every time, and when I do, I'm I mean, it's not, I don't have any control. It's just coming out.
Yeah.
And the diaphragm really gets sore from all that purging. And for this experience, I purged just as much. It was just that the yucca really soothed it, and I had no soreness in my diaphragm. It was so nice. It was so much more easeful, and just that it was a total game changer for me. Yeah.
I believe it. And the beauty about that is that it still hydrates you. It
Mhm.
doesn't dehydrate you. So, the post care after you have gotten well so much, you get dehydrated.
Mhm.
And with the yucca, it doesn't. It allows your body to still know that it's still healing itself.
Mhm.
So it does help. Another way, one of my teachers that serves, he's from Brazil, from Acre, Brazil, and he tends to serve us hot water or
Mhm.
warm water.
Mhm.
So it also helps. What it does is it relaxes the tension in the body.
Mhm.
So when you are going through that process of getting well, you're not constricting so much. When you drink cold water, you can even get cramps.
Mhm.
You can get really bad cramps, and people tend to really not realize where those things are coming from. Although energetically and spiritually, it's letting us know what your process, what you're going through when you are actually going through cramps. But the idea is if you're going to have cramps, let it be because something spiritual is happening here versus the actual scientific part of it, which is the water, right? The water intake.
For sure. And
So,
I just wanted to touch on one thing that I remember when I sat with you, which was probably over 2 years ago. And
mhm.
yeah, it was almost 3 years ago. And I remember I was having all this lower back pain. And that was one of the things that I really wanted to heal with the medicine, that was my intention. And I was still holding on to a previous relationship, different aspects of that, and I was still healing from that. And what the medicine did for me was it helped clear these aspects in the body that I was holding this energy from this past relationship, and it really helped to move that to completion out of my
Yeah.
system, and then the back pain went away. And so there isn't always a correlation with
Mm.
what's what's going to happen from the medicine. Like I didn't realize that back pain was correlated to that relationship, but it was a direct correlation because after I purged, there was this ease and peace around all that. So it felt really good. And I wanted to highlight that there's also aspects of the body that may be numbed out or we may not be feeling. And then the combo amplifies that after you've done it. So it really highlights the parts of the body where we are holding emotions. And that's what's happening to me right now.
Powerful. That's
So,
really powerful.
yeah.
I noticed some of the things that we don't tend to talk about as medicine keepers, medicine holders, the ones who are serving. When you are in the journey, you have like this, what one would, if you want to label something, there's this great intuition or psychic ability, right? Where the person who's sitting in front of you and you're about to serve, every move, every tone, every eye movement, any body language, any way, anything, including your process, is it's giving us the kind of, it's almost like a download of this is what's happening, this is what's happening, this is what's happening. And it's up to us to be able to see that so that we can better assist you on your own journey post-care. One thing that a lot of people don't really realize that, so many times when people come and see me, I tend to analyze their purge. So a lot of people are like, wow, that's like really not good. And I'm like, well, the thing is that we have this protection on us where if you know exactly what you're doing, you know how to protect yourself from picking up energetic stuff, spiritual stuff. But I want to do my best to support you in your journey. So what I do is I analyze your purge, and through the foam, through the color, through everything, it shares with me what's actually going on internally versus spiritually. So when you're going through the process of you feeling the medicine, I'm able to download and see spiritually what's intuitively going on in your body. Then you're in your body, and obviously I'm speaking from my own experience and my own perception of how I serve. But ultimately, I'm getting these downloads, and then your body tends to highlight what's going on for me. And when your pain is located in specific areas of the body, it's letting me know what the emotional body or your mentality, your patterns, your habits, lineage stuff that you're like actually here to heal. It highlights it, and as you had shared that your back problem was things that you were processing in that moment. What ends up happening when we have, when we connect to the chakra system, which is a whole other conversation, but when we connect to the chakra system and we really know what each chakra is sharing, especially when someone is going through the process of healing and they're having pain in certain parts of the body, it's letting us know where there is some unsafety, what things you're not letting go of, what things you can work on, stuff like that. And it also gives us intel on being able to recognize, like in your bucket, we're able to see if your liver is damaged. We're able to see if your intestine lining, you're going through, inflammation, if you're cleaning it. A lot of people that come from alcoholism, they tend to have very, very like dark color bile in their buckets. And it kind of shares with us, even people who are vaccinated that come and sit, that have been vaccinated, their body's telling us this story. When you are actually processing the medicine, they tend to actually turn orange.
Wow.
So, as we're going through the process, they're depending on which mentor you're speaking of, they either have you sit behind the actual person who's sitting, or I prefer to sit, not directly in front of you, but a little bit to the side of you. So we won't be mixing into that energy, and I can still be able to connect with you intuitively. But ultimately, what happens is, as your body is changing its color while you're processing the medicine, it's telling me a story. So it's like really beautiful, it's really beautiful to be able to connect to these medicines in that way, But ultimately, one of my teachers, just to kind of move forward a little bit on the process of post-care, is once we're done serving someone, what we do is we work with dragon's blood to kind of heal the, the points and the gates. And I did bring a little bit of dragon's blood just to kind of show you. I didn't mean to kind of skip and fast
No,
forward.
that's perfect.
So this is the, it's tree sap, but it's really, what did they use? It's like iodine, right? Like iodine.
But it doesn't sting.
It does not sting at all. What a lot of people don't know about this, it's an antiseptic. So what it does is it's antimicrobial. So what it does is once you put it on the skin, which I will put it on the skin to kind of demonstrate a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I have my point on my hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on there. Most practitioners tend to just put a dot on there and just let it dry. And so you have like this mess and it's just kind of dripping and you're trying to survive on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reality of how to activate dragon's blood is you just rub it in until it turns white.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So once it turns white, you officially activated it. So now it's sealed. It's completely sealed.
I didn't
you
know
no
that.
longer
That's
have to
huge.
do anything to it.
Okay.
Yeah. So we also work with dragon's blood if you have a toothache. If you have a toothache, you put it in your gum lining and you kind of rub it in until it turns white. It actually heals your gums.
Okay. That's also something that I could use.
So it's, it's beautiful information and, stuff like that. A lot of practitioners are like, I didn't know that. And I'm like, if you rub it in, what it does is it seals it. So now you can touch anything you want. It's not going to stain anything, but you want to activate the medicine so that later on you can shower and do whatever you want to do on that point and nothing gets damaged. Our recommendation is to never actually, you don't want to put neosporin on it. You don't want to put Vaseline on it. You don't want to put anything on it. The dragon's blood's going to do its job and it's already sealed and you can shower with it. So it's really great stuff.
Yeah, I love dragon's blood. Another term that I've heard people call it is like a natural Band-Aid.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. That's right on the head. Yeah.
Yeah, it just creates, it almost, even when it is just dropped on there, it creates this like a scab very quickly, and it naturally just scabs up and starts to heal very quickly. And I believe there's components in it that actually kind of I'd say like take out any medicine that's still there and place it into the scab so that just falls away.
Absolutely. Yeah. And your points shouldn't, they shouldn't last. It'll scar and it turns into a really light, scar, but it should go away. If it doesn't, the practitioner probably went a little too deep, which is, it's normal too. Everybody's skin is different too. So I have noticed over time, like I'll have someone that just came a year ago and they're like, oh, I'm ready for another sit. And they'll come and sit and I'm like, was that me or was it? And they're like, yeah, it's you. And I was like, whoa, they look pretty, they're still going strong. So, but for the most part, the intention is for you not to really have a scar after so many months,
Yeah, most of mine go away within a year, especially if I'm outside and with, my skin turning tan, it starts to go away. So
yeah.
That's really beautiful. So just to summarize it, basically you have an intention, somebody comes in, they have an intention, depending on that intention, the points are chosen, the top of the skin is burnt off, then the person drinks water, or before the points are put on, they drink lots of water, 1.5 to 3 liters, and then the medicine is put on. It doesn't last, it's not a very long ceremony. Usually the medicine's in the body for 15 to 20 minutes max, right?
Yeah. So what we do is, depending on the person, obviously, because I only work with one gate, with one point, the first sit that you come sit with me, we test it out and see how you're managing going through the process. I've had people sit, I think the most is about 45 minutes that you can sit with the medicine to process it. After that, you should not be going any further, any longer than that, you know.
Yeah.
And we do recommend, what we do recommend is, if you can sit 3 days in a row, you have a good amount of, of, of healing in that time. Not only is it mental healing, but it's physical healing and spiritual healing. And it's a game changer when you can sit 3 days in a row. It's a very, very profound. When I sit to like serve, not to serve myself, I've actually chosen, I've made the executive decision to love myself a little bit more. So I prefer someone to serve me because of how I respond to the medicine. So I prefer to sit 3 days in a row so I can get enough of the medicine. Those 3 days, I'm going through intense work, you know, emotionally, mentally, my patterns are breaking, habits are, you know, going away, stuff like that. Versus like having, you know, a lot of the practitioners tend to do it 3 times within a 28 or 21 day cycle. And that's enough for you, the medicine to do its work. I find it to be the most beneficial when you do it 3 days in a row. You know,
Okay.
and it's very, very powerful in that way. And you don't have to serve yourself that much. And sitting with the medicine 1 point every day, it's still good. It's just you're going through that deep process within yourself. And it also, you know, I tend to have this beautiful saying and that I try to live by and walk in integrity with, you know, in alignment with, but I always say, you know, intention is everything.
Absolutely.
You know, so your intention is what's to live by intention or with intention means what is it that you're really trying to work on. You don't want to take a break. We're so bombarded with so many distractions that when we're on task, like we should stay on that, you know. And this also goes with sitting with multiple medicines at once. You know, that's a very sensitive subject for a lot of people, and I tend to trigger a lot of people, but that's part of the journey, you know. And I tend to respect the medicines. In the most medicines I work with is 3 medicines in 1 retreat. So if I'm serving, and this is us, like now we're starting to go into other types of medicines, right? But ultimately, what I do is, when you come sit with me to have a really in-depth, like you want to work, we're going to work for a whole 24 hours. We're going to work from sunrise to sunset, and you're going to do some really good work. And so what I have learned on the journey of very beneficial outcomes and deep, profound healing has transpired when we begin. So my retreat will be from the beginning. You show up, you know, we're cleansing the space, we're preparing the space, we work with our kopal, we set the intention, and then we serve hape immediately. And then once we serve hape, we prepare the physical body for a Kambo to come in. Then Kambo, after Kambo, we have a moment of just kind of coming back into our bodies, doing a beautiful sound bath or breath work, something to connect us back. And what I also incorporate in it is baños. So we do sacred baños to bathe you in these healing plants, so that your physical body is also going through that process of healing still. You know, while you're integrating in that daytime, the Kambo. And then once we do that, we kind of settle back in and we begin to prepare our candles for intentional healing with the mushroom medicine. So those are the most medicines I've ever worked with in one day. I know that in these times you go to different, you know, retreats and ceremonies where they're serving bufo, Kambo, ayahuasca, you know, and mushrooms and all of that. And I'm like, whoa, how do you know which plant is working?
Right.
Like, how do you know? Like, each of these master plants and master teachers deserve their space. They deserve their moment. They deserve sacredness. They deserve to be acknowledged. If we continue to just bombard our bodies with all like this mix of different master teachers, which one is the one who's really doing the work for you?
Absolutely.
You know, and maybe I am kind of contradicting what I'm saying when I'm serving hape, combo, and mushrooms, but I've noticed that they all tend to get along, and they're all different.
Mm-hmm.
They're all different, and they have their moment throughout the time of you coming to sit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really it's really powerful, and combo is just, it's been such a beautiful mentor and teacher for me on my own journey that it's killed my anxiety. A lot of women, what we didn't get to talk about is some of the ailments that it's assisted a lot of people that I've sat with and served. And I have I've sat with I've sat with people who have gone through leukemia, different cancers. When they've had, I know someone who experienced being testing positive for HIV, who eventually went into remission and tested negative.
Wow.
And so these are powerful things. Hashimoto's has been something that someone has tried to connect with combo with. A lot of people who have the herpes zoster virus, they also have worked with this medicine, and they have found themselves in a beneficial state of remission and not going through an episode at times. But it also depends on your lifestyle, your habits, and how you're incorporating flushing out all of these, ailments from your body. I have seen someone on leukemia go into remission where they no longer needed to take chemotherapy for a while, but we also incorporated ozone therapy with it.
Okay.
So it's a very powerful medicine. One thing that we don't ever talk about is on the post care, a lot of people tend to get sick or feel like they're getting sick, right? I want to clarify something, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation here, because the thing is that there's a misconception that the plants are making you sick. It's actually, no, your body's healing. So if you feel like you're getting sick, it's because of all that stuff that you're still purging out.
Right.
You're still purging out. I've had people call me and they're like, "Hey, do you think the hape or the combo got me sick?" And I'm like, "No, sweetheart. You don't even realize how comfortable you've been sitting in your uncomfortability and your ailments, that now your body's trying to catch up to the process of healing that it just had."
Releasing all that all those toxins, all the
Exactly.
gunk that's built up, and
Exactly.
our body can only handle so much pain and discomfort that it
Absolutely.
starts to shut some of the senses off to things, right? And just like I
Absolutely.
mentioned earlier, it's like different parts of my body are lighting up after the combo, because it's like I've been avoiding being able to look at that, and
Yeah.
now it's highlighted, and I'm finally seeing the deeper patterns and aspects of my family lineage that have passed some of these things down to me, and so on and so forth. So it's powerful, because everything is cyclical in this life. These patterns are very cyclical, and they don't go away. They keep coming back. I mean, I've worked in physical therapy for 16 years now, or more, and the thing I would see is every 3 years the same ailment would come in. If somebody got a knee replacement, they would come back with a knee surgery in 3 years. Or if somebody injured their ankle, if they haven't worked through the energy or the emotions that were stuck there, they'll come back with the same injury. And it's pretty profound how the body holds these aspects of self that, as with the awareness that we have, it's our responsibility to heal that and to really take a deep dive and look at it. And even the people that have had the best life, they still have these aspects that need to be cleared. And even, from their lineage, from their parents, from who knows how far back.
Absolutely. I get a lot of people there's a lot of people that I've come across recently that are like, but I don't have any problems. I don't have anything to worry about. And, my life is good, and I'm like, but it's still always good to keep up your spiritual hygiene.
Right.
It's very important. We don't even realize how much stuff we are still processing, and so, I always tell them, even if you may not come into these specific medicines, because it's kind of like, all right, you're going deep in there. There's other medicines we can work with. When we work in curanderismo, I always tell people, get a limpia. Someone, get, if you want to come close, we'll smoke. We'll do this beautiful work with smoke and Copali, that it's a traditional way for you to just keep up, your spiritual hygiene, your mental hygiene, and your emotional body, and people don't really realize that we're always constantly picking up energy, constantly. It doesn't matter whether it's through the eyes, through the ears, physically, energetically, with our thoughts. I think a lot of people have this idea that when we're speaking, our higher self, our most intelligent self, is the one who's listening. So if, let's say, we're having this conversation, I'm receptive and I'm receiving and resonant with what you're saying, because I'm wanting to learn from you. And not only are we going through the ebb and flow of connection between us, but ultimately, when I'm sharing something, it's always, I'm trying to intentionally hear what I'm saying, so my higher self comprehends this is how we're walking.
Mm-hmm.
If we are walking in life and we're kind of constantly being in this victim mentality, your higher self hears what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all human. We're all going through this experience, and I have my moments when I have a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always very mindful to say, if I am being hard, even in expressing myself, I always come back to center and remind my higher self, I apologize. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do better.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, we are like that. We're all still human and having a human experience. So, but yeah, I run into people who are like, no, I don't have any problems. I had
Mm-hmm.
such a great, upbringing. And I'm like, but you're here. You're still here.
Mm-hmm.
So some people don't like to go deep, and I'm just a very deep person.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, let's get in there a little bit.
I'm with you
What's
there
really
for
going
sure.
on in there? Yeah.
Right, right. What do you
So,
are you numbing out? Is that why you feel happy? Are you
yeah.
just, are you just pretending that these other things aren't happening?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just not, like, pushing it down, and those are the deeper questions that most people don't think about, and some people obviously do, and then that comes up, and so I'd like to come back a little bit to some of the medicines. So you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
Sananga. I know you don't have
Mm-hmm.
any present with you right now. That's okay. Basically, you had mentioned that in the Amazon, Sananga works hand in hand with Kambo, right?
It does. So Sananga is actually to protect your eyes and your vision, your spiritual self, your third eye, your pineal gland. And what it does is, it comes from a root, and they prepare it into a solution, and it's an eye drop. A lot of people don't really realize that we carry parasites in our eyes, in the eye, energetically and physically.
Mm-hmm.
So if we realize that everything that we are seeing, whether it's a violent scene or just like a derogatory type of dense picture or something like that, we're actually taking on that energy. Or
Mm.
like when someone is looking at you in the eyes, you are transferring energy. So whatever codes they're carrying, whether it's healthy or not, you're receiving and you're taking that in through the eyes. So what they do to work with Sananga is, since you're doing a body cleanse with Kambo, what they prefer to pair that with is the Sananga, so that you could also have your, once you're done receiving the medicine, your entire energy system, your aura changes, your physical, your mental, all of it, your whole vibration shifts, and your energy centers are so open after the medicine that when you are sitting with Sananga and you receive the Sananga, it also protects your eye vision from like taking on any medicine, especially when you are open. We always recommend post care after Kambo that you have the rest of the day to yourself. You don't want to go into a public place. You don't want to go to a bar. You don't want to go to a restaurant. You don't want to do none of that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go to the gym. A lot of people tend to be like, can I go to the gym? And I'm like, no, you're not supposed to go to the gym. At the end of the day, these are just suggestions, but we recommend not to, because you need to preserve that energy.
Mm-hmm.
You need to preserve the high frequency that is trying to acclimate into your body. So when you sit with Sananga, you want to also sit with that too. Not only does your vision start to get healthier, but you actually notice a difference. When you sit with Sananga, so what they do is they serve it on the inner corner of your eyes.
And these are
You
eye
have your
drops,
eyes
right?
closed. Yes. So what they do is you lie back, and when you're lying back, they place one drop in each eyelid, and you just kind of flutter your eyelids so that it can soak your entire cornea,
Mm-hmm.
correct? And so what it is that, so once it soaks, there's a little tiny sting behind it.
It's
But
not.
if
It depends on the medicine. Sometimes it feels like there's a huge bonfire in your eyes.
yeah, so yes, there is very strong to like most of the most fresh ones are the I tend to notice that the fresh sanangas tend to be very potent, but they're actually lighter than when they're actually soaking a little bit longer. The
Okay, that
longer
makes
it's in the root and in the solution, the stronger it can be. But it can also be like we tend to put it in the refrigerator to keep it fresh as long as possible. But if you keep it out, what it does is it does settle in, but most of it will go bad. If anything, you'll know the difference if so. Once you receive the medicine, yes, it does sting. The best way for you to process the specific medicine is to breathe.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, that's what's going to save you, the breathing. Once
Mm-hmm.
you're just breathing in and out, you're going to be able to process the medicine a lot easier than fighting it. Healing isn't pretty, but imagine how uncomfortable we've been living in our lives, just comfortable in that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's like living in your uncomfortability, like nothing's going on. But healing is healing doesn't last long when you're going through these processes. Combo only takes about 20 minutes to process. We give you about an hour and a half. You should be good. You know, um, Sananga takes about maybe 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes tops, 10 minutes. You're good, and you open up your eyes, and everything's just brighter.
Oh yeah.
In the Amazon, that's how they're able to work with it. So when they're actually hunting for the frog, they work with Sananga at night so that their vision can be a lot clearer to be able to look for the frog. So it's really
Yeah.
beautiful, and you
Yeah, and I
know,
wanted to just
but-
add I've served Sananga to several people, and sometimes there's this intensity, especially if it's the first time, because the eyes have never experienced something like this, right? And I've seen it where people have like something leave, like a spirit just like come off them as soon as they receive the medicine. I've seen people like reset their nervous system from it. They just like have to it's a huge presence practice because it forces one to be in their body, and let's be honest, most people aren't walking around in their body. They're somewhere out here, right? Above their
Absolutely.
body. And the Sananga just forces them back into their body, and then they have to feel the things, you know? And so
Absolutely.
for some people, it's like a bit of a shock. For other people that have been meditating, really good at breath work, things like that, all you have to do is just stay in your center, breathe through it, and like you said, you'll cry and the tears run down the side uh, of your face, and the medicine just starts to clear out, and then within 5 minutes, 3 minutes, it's all out. So
Yeah.
it's really, really beautiful medicine. I really love working with it because I'm with the perspective that I'd rather go through something intense with medicine than have to deal with it in the real world, because it'll if it's not,
Absolutely.
yeah, if it's not addressed that way, a lot of times, not always, it manifests through my life in other ways that are more debilitating or more difficult to manage. And so we do things, we work with these medicines and with Sweat Lodge and Vision Quest, these types of things, to so that it's cleared in that space where it's controlled, it's in a very safe container, and then from that space it doesn't ripple out into our life anymore.
Absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful reflection that you just shared, that I'd rather go through this process of intense healing than go through it in our life. And I think that's the beauty and the ultimate intention in these master teachers, is that when we are going through this, although we can't change the fact that we are going to go through our own human experiences, makes it a lot easier when we've gone through these master teachers. And a beautiful way to go back to Sananga, um, the scientific and the medical healing of Sananga is people who have stigmatism, who have cataracts, who have nearsighted, farsighted problems and ailments. It heals their eyesight. So the recommendation or suggested dieta to do with Sananga is to do it for 21 days. So you do it one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off for 21 days, and then you take a break and notice the difference in the changes. But you should be taking note, to recognize the changes in these. But it's really powerful medicine, and from time to time, I do get the root, and I know that the teacher is always telling me, like, you should prepare it. That's why I'm here. And I'm always like, I know, but I don't know if I'm ready, so it's kind of like this thing, but ultimately, I tend to already have it in solution. So, but the medicines always show up when they know that you have the capacity to connect with them and build a relationship with them. And that's the beauty of the synchronicity, walking on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
As you start to you start to notice all the coincidences become synchronicities.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a rhythm to this. And people who don't walk the journey don't comprehend our conversation about, um, they look at it like, oh, someone's paranoid, or why are you looking too much into this? It's not that, it's just a coincidence. And the thing is that on the journey, you come to the realization that everything is made up of a rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that's consistent is change.
Mm-hmm.
So if you notice a sudden shift somewhere, you're like, okay, something's happening right now. Something's trying to teach me something. Maybe the medicine, like a lot of the medicines, I don't sit with them often. And I do that out of respect for not only my vessel, but for the medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't run to them every moment that I'm going through something. I know that the medicine is telling me, you still need to go through your human experience.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people don't really realize that if we have an addictive personality in the human existence and then you come into the spirit realm, this can be addicting too.
Big time.
It's a fine line. We have to walk a beautiful balance of recognizing when we are too much in the clouds. There's this moment where even in my own journey, I was too much in spirituality, way where I was like, nothing else exists, and I started to notice, I'm like, why aren't people walking the same way, and they shouldn't be doing this. And then I got sat down by the medicine. I had a journey, and one of the medicines was like, no, honey, you also need to live your human experience. You're here to explore, experience, and evolve and learn lessons.
Exactly.
So it's a beautiful conversation, but yeah. So
I wanted to add something. So
mhm.
specifically with Kambo and with Sananga, those two medicines, when I first sat with Kambo, it is considered a warrior medicine. And when I sat with it, it was like, I've done this thing, and what else could be more challenging in my life? It like gave me this new perspective on life, that these things come and these things happen, but I've done this warrior medicine, like there's nothing to fear anymore, because I've gone into the depths of myself, and also into this intensity, and so like it was very intense for me the first time, and so it just gave me this perspective on life where I was like, I'm I got it. Like there's nothing really to be afraid of, nothing to worry
Right.
about. I I've done this thing that is one of the most challenging things I've ever done, and now life is, it seems so much more of a flow, of an effortlessness, once there's a comparison to something like a Kambo or a Sananga. I mean, Sananga is a different type of intensity. It's just in the eyes. But the
Yeah.
Kambo is like a scanning of the whole system, and then the organs all release all their toxins, and then comes out, and it was very intense for me the first time, and my intention was to clear all the alcohol and all the party days from my life, and I had been sober, I think, 5 years at that point, and I was like, all right, let's get it out. And it was just like bright yellow liquid coming out,
Yeah.
and it was just clearing all that old stuck energy. So
Yeah.
it's powerful.
It's
I mean, especially for men that are looking to step into their warrior aspect, I highly recommend it with a very skilled facilitator.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think everyone is different too. And, um, one thing we didn't get to touch on before we move forward. So I wanted to share the different types of purges
Okay.
of combo that people have this, like when they're sitting for the first time, and the first thing they do is they go and they look online. you know we always recommend to not do that, because your experience is yours and yours alone, and other people may have a whole different type of experience. And when we're on the outside looking in, especially, we're in a different portal than they are when they're processing and going through their medicine, their healing process. And so, to our human perspective, when we're looking at someone going through a process that we're nowhere in, what happens is, in the psyche, it gives you this image where you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go through that. I hate throwing up. I hate
Right.
that. But ultimately, like, that's why we don't recommend to do that. But ultimately, you might not purge at all. You might end up yawning. You might end up crying. You might end up perspiring. Some people have a really, really strong smell to them,
Mhm.
and that's you purging. That's
Right.
you purging in a different manner. And each one is telling us exactly what you're processing. Each one of those is a beautiful, it's like quantum physics and putting all the numbers together and letting us know this is what they're processing right now. A lot of people don't realize that when you go to the bathroom, because a lot of people, we always need to be serving near a bathroom. If you end up cleansing from not only your orally, or you end up going to the bathroom, what ends up happening is what it's sharing with us is your emotional body is under deep and major distress. You're very emotional, and there's a lot of stuff that happens in the emotional. The emotional body is connected to the intestinal tract, to the stomach lining, to the liver, the gallbladder, all of that. So it and into the colon. So that's where all of our emotions get stuck at. Many people who are healing their voice end up purging a lot through the mouth. So they're healing a lot of their truth. A lot of people, like if you notice, they start to the way that their voice starts to change, the way that they start to share their truth, the way that it sounds now. It sounds calmer. It's a lot more clear. It's more clarity, more grounded. So all of that entails some form of part of your emotional body and spiritual self. And so we shouldn't get stuck to one idea that because everybody talks about, oh, you're going to throw up, you're just going to throw up. That's not true. Some people actually do end up fainting. I am one of those people.
Okay.
My process of fainting is I go somewhere else.
Right.
I'm somewhere else. And because I have someone who is holding the container for me, that I completely know this person will get me out of that fire, is when that happens, immediately you should have a set protocol. The person who's serving you should have a proper protocol if that was to happen, how to bring it back. There is I've never heard of anyone, having a fatality with Kambo. There has been accidents who have been, recorded, but it's due to them serving themselves, or, it's really, or they didn't. So one important thing about before sitting with anyone, you should have an intake form. The intake form should give the guide who is going to serve you enough information that you are very transparent. That's one thing that we always tend to, as people who are serving the medicine, you got to be transparent with the person who's going to serve you. If you want us to be able to take care of you to the best of our ability, 100%, you want to be safe, you have to let us know what's going on with your system. That means
Absolutely.
heart problems. We cannot serve someone with heart problems, heart transplants, anything that has to do with like major high blood pressure or low blood pressure. Those are sensitive cases. If you can't let us know what's going on with you, then how are we supposed to help you on your journey? So
Absolutely.
people get so fixated on all right, we're just going to do the thing, and yeah, let's do it because I'm choosing to do it. Us as keepers of holding this medicine, we have a responsibility, and our integrity is on the line. I don't tell everyone yes. And they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go find someone else. I'm not doing this for your money. I'm doing this for your safety.
Absolutely.
If you don't follow the dieta leading up, and you're not going to listen to what the preparation is for it, or you're not going to be transparent, I can't serve you because I don't feel safe to serve you. And there's a lot of people that I've noticed, and it's an unfortunate topic to come across, but there's people who are just wanting to fill a seat. They don't have intake forms, where they just want to fill a seat.
Fill a seat. Got it.
Yeah. So it's almost like, okay, why haven't you screened this person? Why haven't you done a plática with them? Why haven't you connected with them? Why aren't you building relationship with this person? why is this person feeling so safe with you when you haven't done any of those things with them?
Mm-hmm.
So these are very sacred and serious plant teachers. And if people feel that they want to do it out of a trend because other people are doing it, that's not the intention, or this isn't the goal here. We want to do it with such reverence and integrity that I'm okay saying no to people who are not transparent. If they can be transparent, I can't serve them because I don't feel safe to be able to save you regardless,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And, this idea of, oh, you're just going to purge and you're going to, vomit and all this other stuff. That's not really what it is. There's, there's different processes that you're going through. Everyone's different.
Absolutely.
I wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that. I think that's all very important information for people to realize and connect to. So I think this is a good moment to transition into the next medicine we wanted to talk about, which was sacred cacao.
I love cacao. I'm so excited about us talking about cacao.
That feels like one of your main medicines because you're so connected to it.
Yeah, cacao. It's really beautiful because I'm so excited to connect with this with you, brother, because we keep finding more information about cacao. And there is really beautiful information. And also, I brought a cacao pod today. So this is super special. I wish you were right in front of me so I could share this beautiful essence and connection with you. And so what we have found about cacao, cacao, a lot of people don't know that cacao originated in the Amazons. It's actually from the jungle. From different jungles, which is Ecuador, Brazil, and Peru were the first 3 jungles that it was actually discovered. A lot of people have this idea or this notion that Mexico came up with it and the Mayas, and it's not true, and it's actually it came from the Amazon jungles. And it came from Brazil first and Ecuador, and then it made its way to Peru. It was discovered in Peru. From there, as people started migrating, and it landed in Mexico, and they realized that in Mexico it can grow. And then from Mexico is when the Mayas discovered, and we've just taken on this beautiful responsibility of caring for cacao. But there's so many misconceptions of cacao, which this is the baby pod, but I have a larger one that I kind of want to show you.
Okay.
I'm gonna open that little one.
Okay.
So this guy.
Oh yeah, it's a beauty. It's orange and brown and yellow for those that are listening in.
Yeah. So this is super, super special.
And that one's about what, 12 inches long?
Yeah, it's pretty big about. It's such a special connection that I have with cacao, and I think we don't really realize that this is definitely going to break a lot of hearts, but there is no such thing as a cacao ceremony.
Mic drop.
So they're coming to the realization that cacao, ultimately, the way that the Guatemalans work with cacao is they actually have a fire ceremony. So cacao is traditionally meant to be an offering to the fire.
Okay.
And so ultimately, cacao was the connection. It's the connection from one heart to another. So the essence and the connection of cacao is really what they did in, I mean, I think the plant's been only discovered about 5,000 years. And so the story that I have been learning about and been educating myself on is that cacao is really meant to be an offering to the fire.
Okay.
So what happens is, so when they do the fire ceremony, the fire speaks to them in their own way. And what originated back in old times. So King Pakal, which is the last reigning king, beloved king in Mexico, they worked with cacao as currency. So
Okay.
it was worth more than gold. So if
Mhm.
you had cacao seeds or cacao, you were known as someone of stature. You were one with money.
Mhm.
And so, but originally what people would do is they worked with the barter system in those days. So in order for them to be able to, if they wanted to buy eggs from you or food or something, they would give you, the cacao beans as currency. And so the legend goes that in sundown, well, when you have an enemy near you, that they would sit in front of the fire, they would duke it out, they would like tell each other all whatever they wanted to say, they would say whatever, everything that they felt. And it was a deep integrated, like whatever emotion they were feeling, which obviously was not a good one, right? They're arguing back and forth. And when the sun comes up, when the sun begins to rise, they would serve cacao in this beautiful brew, how we do it. And once the sun rose and you had that cup of cacao and you share it with your enemy, you no longer have this conversation. It never existed anymore.
So
So
it's like a
the
clearing of
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. So the connection of you no longer having this grudge with this person, cacao has now came into this space. So now it's connecting you to the heart.
Mm,
So whatever transpired overnight in front of the fire, it is no longer existing because
mhm,
you gave it to the fire.
mhm.
And so cacao comes in, and cacao kind of is the mending of hearts, is the one who's connecting you. So when people would come over to each other's homes, they would say, I come here bearing gifts, and I bring you a cacao pod, which
There it
is
is. Beautiful.
so, so they would come and they would greet you and bring you some cacao so that we can have a heart-straightening talk and a connection. And that's how we would officially work with cacao, and as time has evolved, the Mayans took on this beautiful connection and in their way ceremony, but they don't even claim it's a ceremony anymore because
So
it's
so I have a question. In those older times, did they eat the cacao raw like you're doing
yeah.
right now, or would they? When was it that they started to roast it and turn it into that? Which for those that don't know, now cacao is. I mean, most people know this, but cacao is the main ingredient of chocolate. And
Mhm.
cacao is such a heart opener, and it's done in ceremony where people cook it down and make a beautiful cup of cacao. And it's very different, tastes very different, and looks different, and the texture is different than like a Swiss Miss or anything like that that says cacao
Yeah.
on it.
So the seed has this really, it's like a white film to it, right?
Hmm.
And it keeps it moist. That is the sweetest part of the cacao seed.
Hmm.
So once you bite into it, it becomes bitter.
Right.
The seed becomes bitter. So there's like this beautiful connection of sweet and a little bit of bitter. So there is a multitude of different parts to the cacao, including, so what they do with the white film of it becomes cacao butter. So they
Oh,
create
okay.
it into butter, and what they do is that beautiful butter, you can work with it in so many ways.
I need
So
to
they
get
would
some of
make
that.
different chocolates. Yeah, actually, you know what? Maybe I could mail you the cacao pod as my gift to you.
Oh, that would be so
For
amazing. I
you
would.
and your honey. Yeah. Um, so yeah, and so what they would do is every part except for the outer shell, even the outer shell of the cacao is you can utilize it, you can work with it. People make shakers and gourds out of it. I actually tend to dry mine so that I could drink my cacao brew out of them.
Oh, that's
So it's kind of
beautiful.
cool, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately there's approximately, I think there's about 1,000, maybe 1,000 different species of cacao. Depending
Whoa.
on who you speak with and what region you're talking to, they all tend to say that their cacao is the best cacao, which the three main ones is Criollo, and there's another one. I don't know why I can't think of the other two, but Criollo is the most popular one. A lot of people tend to have this notion that Criollo is the best cacao, but it's ultimately not the truth. There's so many. There's a hybrid of cacao where some of the cacao is yellow.
Hmm.
The fruits, they all taste different. Some of them are a little sweeter. Some of them come a little bit more soury, fruity kind.
Hmm.
And then there's one that is really just bland, and it's just straight cacao. And it's not bitter, but it's very bland and it doesn't have that much of the taste. But ultimately, I've come across those three kind, at least from my own understanding, from who sends them to me.
Hmm.
And they all taste really beautiful. I have noticed, though, the darker the cacao, like the outer shell, um, they tend to have a stronger, more potent, like, uh, let's say the butter is a lot more sweeter,
Hmm.
you know, versus the yellow ones. The yellow ones that are hybrid, they tend to have more of a lighter taste to them, but they're more fruity in a sense, in an essence. But ultimately, yeah, there's so many breeds of cacao that no one really knows which one really is, because everyone has tended to like to explore with them, experiment with them, and in Hawaii they have amazing cacao.
Oh,
They're
I
one
bet.
of my
Yeah.
teachers. Yeah, one of my teachers from cacao. She has her own cacao farm.
Wow.
But her cacao is super expensive, and she won't send any pods, you know.
Uh-huh.
But so yeah, and the beauty about working with cacao, the way that I work with her and I present him, and the reason why I'm saying him and her is because cacao. So the legend goes, from what I first had learned about cacao is that Ekchwa was the actual god that gave each cacao her name.
Mm.
And it was a beautiful connection where it was a masculine energy.
Mm.
So, and he gifted this masculine energy and said, I think we need to create her into a tree, and I want her to be named Ish Cacao. You
Mm.
know, but it depends who you speak with. Again, you know, everyone has, you know, in the Mayan cosmology, and even in the Mexica, we have so many things that we have yet to even explore in our own culture, that the legends are different, you know, and there's just so much and such little that we really truly know of our
Mm.
own culture. But so it came from Ekchwa. So when I hold, you know, a cacao circle, what happens is we're really connecting to our intention and into our heart.
Mm.
And the idea of connecting to cacao for us is truly to mend our hearts. You know, cacao is really meant to be a heart opener. It is meant to heal your voice, to hear your connection to grudges, to grief. People who have passed on, we work with cacao. We're actually incorporating and integrating cacao into spaces like AA and NA. So what we're doing is people who are trying to kick addictions, you know, when people have addictions, they tend to go straight, like especially if they have like methamphetamine addictions and stuff like that, that kind of are uppers. They tend to, we notice that it's more common for them to go straight to coffee and caffeine. So what we do is, and then that becomes a habit. So what we're doing is we're allowing to integrate cacao into the, you know, as a brew into these spaces, so that not only are they getting the benefits of feeling alive and up, what it does is it releases endorphins. So it's really beneficial for someone to lighten their mood when they're connecting with cacao. They're having a cup of cacao. They feel this beautiful, energetic essence and connection to themselves. Everything tends to lighten up. Everything is more verbal. It's just so beautiful, right? So a lot of people who are diabetic, they actually transition sugar to cacao. So it helps with their sugar levels. It's the original name of cacao is Theobroma cacao. And so, you know, as we had shared, that this is the main component of chocolate. So without this specific ingredient, chocolate doesn't exist. We can't make it the way that we've turned it into here, you know, but and so it has such great benefits. People with high blood pressure, it regulates and it gives them the really good, there's flavonoids in it that actually benefits, and it brings down to balance the high blood pressure. Anything that it has really good benefits also for like a clear mind, people who have anxiety, people who are kicking certain patterns and addictions. It actually helps with cholesterol levels, which is really, you know, it has such great benefits, and you can create so much. And what they do is they take the butter off, right? They take the butter off, they skin it, and they actually put that aside to create cacao butter. And then the inside, what they do is they start to toast it until they turn brown. Then when it turns into the brown, which to me, the best way to have cacao is really in the toasted way, which is amazing. But once they toast it, they put it on a grinder, which is like a mortar and pestle, but like one of those rock ones. And they start grinding it and until it becomes a powder form. And then that's when they begin to work with it to turn it into chocolate. They start adding, you know, all the extra stuff to make it into turning it even more brown. So,
And I've
so
seen
yeah,
it. I've seen it them grinding it, but it doesn't look dry. It looks like a little bit moist. So is that
yeah.
just it? But it's been roasted, so that's where is that the oils coming out of it?
Yeah, I believe that there is a transitional stage when they're grinding it. They can add, they do, it's probably the butter in it
Okay.
that allows it, or they probably incorporate, you know, different oils in it. It does begin to release its oil and the potency in the cacao, which is, you know, or they can add something to it to make it a little bit chocolatey, or like to make it look like chocolate. But
And then
yeah,
what? And then when people brew it to serve, a lot of times people have all types of recipes, right? What's
yeah.
what's your what's your go-to recipe?
So I used to love to work with it just completely just straight cacao. And it's like bitter and it's straight to the point. Let's sip on it, you know, and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
The process is a beautiful, just short in quick process is you're speaking to the cacao, you're singing to the cacao, you have this invocation to call in the spirit of cacao to come in. And when we activate the water with our own prayer, we smoke tobacco. So we smoke tobacco. Tobacco is a big component to having a cacao circle and activating it. So what we do is we connect with the tobacco, we work with the water to activate it, we add the chocolate into it, the cacao into it, and as you're churning it, because you have a molinillo, and you're just kind of churning it, you're singing to it.
What's a
Now,
molimillo?
what a molinillo is, I don't know what it's called in English, but it's like it's a round thing, and you just kind of, it's like a mixer almost, but it's a
Okay.
hand mixer.
Oh, okay.
And so that's the best way to break down the cacao in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so what the recipe that I've come to love and enjoy is adding, now that I'm telling my little secrets, are cinnamon. We add cinnamon, nutmeg, star anise, and we add, I add a little bit of vanilla in it, and I add cardamom. So cardamom gives it such a elevated perfume type of smell to it, which is really beautiful. Now, what I've also done in past circles is the moment that people start coming in, I start kind of downloading intuitively what ingredients want to come into the cacao.
Okay.
So if we add salt into the cacao, it's because there's people who need a little bit of healing on a little bit of masculine in their energy.
Okay.
So we could also add a little bit of chili and spice into it because you're calling in fire into that energy. So each component and ingredient that we add to it is based on the circle and what intuitively wants to come in.
Nice.
And it's such a beautiful way to connect with these beautiful medicines, and it's a good way for us to connect, like, through our heart. We're in such a space of suffering and victimhood that it's time for us to evolve further from that mentality, from that hurt, from that pain, from what we're suffering from, And many times people, in my last circle, I had people that were actually going through chemo and cancer. I had people who were mourning their parents. I had people who lost a child. Everybody going through something, and everyone, it seems to be suffering in some way. And I feel that cacao has made such a beautiful awakening into this society that it's so weird. I don't watch TV, but not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, I turned on my TV and I was just having a moment of I just wanted to be human, right? And I turned on the TV and it goes automatically to the news.
Oh,
I guess that's what the cable station does, yeah. And they were having a segment of cacao. And I was like, no way. And I recorded it. And I was mesmerized by it.
Wow.
And it was how now the community is incorporating and implementing cacao in these spaces. And, they were actually talking about a trendy topic, which is, they're doing retreats of a cacao ceremony. And I'm like, there's no cacao ceremony. No ceremony.
Right.
But they actually, one thing that they did say was, this has barely started to come into the surface, into this beautiful trend of the 2000s. And I was like, I'm grateful to know that cacao has made such an impact, even if people are utilizing or working with this medicine to connect back into ourselves. into our hearts. We
Yeah.
deserve that. We
Mhm.
deserve that. And a lot of people have this misconception that only indigenous people or people of color are to serve this medicine. I've
Mhm.
had women who have come up to me and said, may I have permission to serve cacao? And I'm like, you're asking me? Like, why are you asking me? Like, I'm not giving you permission. The medicine gives you permission to do
Mhm.
this,
Mhm.
you know? And if you feel it in your heart and you're going to walk in reverence and integrity, that's your relationship with the medicine.
Mhm.
And if you know that you're really doing something good to benefit the collective consciousness, I am no one to tell you you cannot do this. You know, especially cacao. Cacao is meant to be in the hearts of everyone. And this ideology of only keeping it in this one way, I feel like gatekeeping certain things is not, that's not my journey. I don't get involved in that, but
Mhm.
I just feel cacao deserves to be in the hearts of everyone.
I love that.
You know, yeah. Thank you for letting me share that.
I love that. Yeah, that's an important piece because I've seen a lot on Instagram making fun of white people and them trying to be spiritual and showing up in these ways and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it comes down to that individual's relationship with the
Absolutely.
medicine, whatever medicine it is, how they treat it, the reverence, the intention, and my my personal belief is that for the old souls that are here to awaken the planet, those souls already know what they're connected to. They've been working with these medicines for lifetimes, uh, in different bodies, in different parts of the planet, on other planets potentially, right? And
Yeah.
so those people will be able to see through that all that fakeness, right? And
Mhm.
still be able to hold something just as beautiful or just in a different way, right? And I
Absolutely.
believe that it all comes down to the intention and the where it's coming from. If it's coming from the heart,
Mhm.
it'll be felt. It doesn't matter what your skin color is, which part of the world you're from, it really just comes down to how the relationship has been built with the medicines and
Oh,
the calling.
absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And this is, you know, I love how you re-mention intention is everything, and it is, you know, and it's really how we're embodying and how we're asking permission to the medicines how to walk,
Yeah,
and hey, may I have relationship with you to better serve the community, you know. I think there's also a divine balance between it. Now, there is, this path is not an easy path. It's not, a lot of people tend to have this notion that it chooses you, which let me rephrase that. A lot of people tend to have this notion that we choose this walk, but ultimately when you're really deep in it, you're like, oh no, this was already here, regardless of what I thought I was doing in my own journey. And a lot of people that feel that they're making a choice to come into this walk, um, they come to realize that when things get really real, raw, and deep, they run away because it was never meant to be their journey.
hmm
But those who still continue to walk in through the trenches, the fires, and come out and know that they're still standing firm on their walk, I think that those are who are meant to be on the journey, you know. And it's okay if people want to come in and try it. If creator is saying this is your path, it's gonna assist you on the journey.
for sure.
If it's not, and it was just a point of you to come and explore and experience and then walk away, that's okay too,
hmm
you know. But I'm no one to gatekeep any medicine, you know. And uh I know that my journey was chosen already for me, and I'm grateful for the walk. But this is not easy by any means, by any means, like having to face yourself and look at yourself in the mirror daily and do the work. That's not an easy task. The last thing you want to look at it is like look at yourself again, going through whatever it is that you're going through. You're like, I don't want to look at this. Can I just like leave and put it off for another day? But you can't,
Yeah.
And so people tend to. I think we're in a time right now where we are finding the people who are meant to be on the journey, and those people who are not, who were just meant to explore for a little bit. Eventually Creator knows, it's time for them to walk away, and it's okay. It's okay, because the ones who are walking in through the fires and doing their work, it's going to show. It's going to show, and they're doing what they came here to do.
Absolutely. And there's so many different paths to get up the mountain,
Absolutely.
and what I found is that the people, I've met many elders that I consider them true elders, right? The ones that have been on these paths for many years, 20, 40,
Yeah.
60 years. Those people sometimes, when they're so committed to one specific way, it doesn't always give them the full scope of the healing that they need. And
Absolutely.
I've met elders that are like, I've been doing this for so long. How is this still happening for me? And I don't say anything, but in my mind I'm thinking it's because there's so much more that can help, that works simultaneously, that can be enmeshed, and that can now, with the internet and with everything accessible, there's so many ways to find resources and healings and facilitators of all kinds and all sorts. And I think I encourage everyone that's listening to try the different yogas, to try the different medicines, to try the different uh, meditations, to try the different, you know, different journeys on different parts of the world, and traveling, because there's so much out there, and the soul knows, the individual's soul knows what's meant for them, and it will guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just a beautiful remembrance, to touch on that note. I have a mentor. My grandmother was one of my biggest teachers, and I remember her and the mentor. He's an elder. He comes from a generational lineage of his own journey, and you know, his walk is a certain walk. And as I have evolved, he tells me, that your journey is one that's different. You were meant to explore a lot of other teachers that we didn't explore, because your medicine is different. And I remembered when my grandma was still here, in the human existence, she would tell me, go explore and find your teachers. She would be like, you need to go find your teachers.
I
And I'm
love
like,
that.
baby, you're my teacher. I want to
I
be
feel
with
emotional
you.
about that.
Yeah. And I would be like, but I want to be with you. And she's like, I don't know everything. You're supposed to have a lot of teachers. Your journey is different. And she's like, I'm not going to be your only teacher. And she hasn't been. And to all of my teachers that I represent in my own walk, I hope and I wish, and my intention is that I am walking in the reverence of a walking embodiment of what they have taught me.
You are.
And I'm not only representing myself, I am representing all of my teachers that have walked with me. And I hope that I'm doing an amazing job, so that, I of course I'm human and I have my moments and stuff like that, but I always want to lead with reverence, to know that when they have taught me, it has never gone in vain. I took it serious, and I'm doing the best that I can, and I am representing them. So
beautiful.
and it's beautiful because I could feel my grandma here where I'm at. So I'm in a different job site today,
Mhm.
and I have an elder here, and my grandmother, actually, there's pictures of my grandmother and my aunt here, who are now my ancestors. And it's just, I felt them since I walked in. I felt them since this morning. And they're like, it's beautiful because before I had asked for permission to connect with your energy so that we can flow in divine alignment with our connection and be able to do this. And I asked them, I know you're going to be present. And as soon as I walked in, I seen their pictures. So they're always here, and when we talk in the way that we walk, I think it's really powerful because I can see her like, I told you you were going to be something, and regardless if I'm nothing to the world, I'm something to me and her, So it's really, it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you for
I think your grandma would be very proud of you, of the woman that you are and that you become and that you're evolving into. So yeah, I just wanted to reflect that to you.
I received that with so much humility and love. Thank you.
And thank you so much for all of the beautiful teachings and the beautiful sharings today. And I think that we covered a lot.
Yeah, we can definitely talk for a
We,
long time, you and
we
I.
could do another 4 episodes if we wanted to. We didn't
Let's do it.
we didn't touch on everything yet, but I
Yeah.
love it because we're going in depth with each topic,
Mhm.
and we really went in depth with the topics today, and I'm so grateful for you joining today. And and maybe next time we'll do a live episode when you're out here in Vegas visiting your family. That would
I
be
think that would be great.
really beautiful to do. So
Yeah.
we'll have better sound quality and we'll have better video, all the things. So
Yeah.
uh, Karina, thank you so much for joining on today. Until next time, love you so much.
Mateo. Aho.